among some people that there is quite a bit of gang activity in Nashville and in surrounding areas. Let's talk about gangs and how you define a gang as the person who's in charge of the Youth Services Division.
Well, I don't claim to be an expert on gangs, as that connotation of gang is often
But from
used.
your experiences
but
and from the things that you know about police work and et cetera.
I am anxious to sort of address the question. And I'll say again, gang activity is not a new issue. Gangs have been around for a couple of hundred years. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, we've had people in this community and offenders in this community who were in gangs. What has changed in the last few years is that the connotation of gang as we have come to know it is what's typified by what we see in Los Angeles and some other major cities. And there's some characteristics of that that are pretty frightening. In this community, and probably most other communities, you've got to identify what you're really talking about, because a gang in Los Angeles may not be a gang in Nashville. We're a different community. And a gang is nothing more than organized crime. And we think of organized crime as the mafia. Well, there's other kinds of organized crime, and we have many people engaged in that. And all it is are 3 or more people who come together with a little bit of organization or a lot of organization. They normally have a name that's associated with them, and they engage in criminal behavior. And we have got some criminals who happen to be involved in criminal behavior. Some of them are juveniles. But the reality of it is that most people who involve themselves in what we call gangs are adult persons. They're not juveniles. And I have a real concern about the fear that is created in the community when there is discussion about gangs, because what we connote to be a gang is what we're seeing in Los Angeles and other large cities. And that is not what we're seeing here characteristically. I mean, we are seeing people who come together and they commit crime, and there's safety in committing crime in numbers. We know that. I mean, that has always been the case. The foundation for a lot of that criminal behavior is narcotics activity. But not just that. They do armed robberies, and they do burglaries, and they do assaults, and that sort of thing. But I think the wiser thing for us to do as a smart police agency is to look upon them as criminals, to deal with them as criminals, and to look particularly at those people that we call serious habitual offenders, who are full-time criminals, who clump together because of the safety that is provided.
And so there's no special kind of security that should be given them under any kind of banner known as gangs or color or anything else, what you call it. They're simply criminals, persons who band together in order to commit criminal activities.
That is a fairly good definition of what a gang is, and I think we need to call it what it is and deal with it in those terms. And I think as a police agency, if we're looking at dealing with the issue of what people in the media choose to call gangs, I think a smart thing for us to do is to really address the issue of narcotics, and to really address the issue of people who are full-time criminals, not just people passing through criminal behavior, but people who choose to do that as a career.
Very good. Ms. VMeece, one of the things that we find in terms of this youth violence, youth criminality, gang, or whatever you call it, is that there are more and more females involved in such activities. And women, I think, in the 1990s are found in situations that they were rarely found in the 1970s. I think Captain VMeece has already indicated the nature of the changing nature of this involvement. Let's have you to look at what the Y is doing in order to try to reclaim some of these young persons. And we want to warn you that we're going to probably interrupt you for a commercial break, but let's start on that.
All right. In the Youth Services Department, our primary focus is prevention. So we want to prevent it from getting to that level that Captain VMeece was referring to. So what we really try to do is, again, give young girls skills and alternatives before they get to that point where they're really engaging in criminal behavior or gang-like behavior. So we're really, again, building their self-esteem, getting with them at a very young age, working in support with the school system so they can stay in school and look at more positive alternatives. Again, we try to work with them at those times when we know they are tempted by negative stimulation. So we work with them right after school, things like that.
Very good. And we'll continue that when we come back
All
after
right.
this second commercial. We'll be back with you following.